Pope Urban II's call to arms, the speech that started the Crusades. One speech changed the course of history. With a few powerful words, Pope Urban II ignited a fire that swept through Europe, spurred armies of thousands, and plunged the world into a series of brutal, bloody battles that would last for centuries. But what did he actually say that was so compelling, so urgent, that it drove noblemen, peasants, and knights to leave their homes, cross continents, and fight in a foreign land? In today's video, we're uncovering the shocking truth behind Pope Urban II's speech at Clermont. How it wasn't just a call to arms, but a rallying cry that promised both salvation and sacrifice. Was it a noble plea to protect the Holy Land, or a cunning strategy to consolidate power and reshape Europe forever? Hi friends, welcome to the channel, so glad to have you here. If you're fascinated by history's turning points, gripping battles, and the people behind world-changing events, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss our deep dives into the past. To understand Pope Urban II's shocking and controversial call to arms, we need to first step back and see Europe as it was in 1095. Western Europe was fractured and chaotic, plagued by frequent wars among feudal lords and monarchs. In the east, the Byzantine Empire, once a formidable powerhouse, was under siege by the Seljuk Turks, who had gained control over much of Anatolia and were inching closer to Constantinople. The Byzantine Emperor Alexios III, fearing the imminent collapse of his empire, sent out a desperate plea for help to the west. When this message reached Pope Urban II, he saw an opportunity, one that went beyond simply helping a fellow Christian empire. He envisioned a grand, unifying mission that could reshape Europe, redirect its violent energy, and perhaps most importantly, strengthen the power of the Church. Urban knew that if he could rally the Western Christian forces, he could not only assist the Byzantines, but also take back Jerusalem, the holiest city in Christendom, which had fallen under Muslim rule. So, in November 1095, Pope Urban II arrived in Clermont, France, and delivered one of the most powerful speeches in history. He spoke to a large, eager crowd of nobles, knights, peasants, and clergy. His words would reverberate through history. But what was it exactly that he said? Urban's speech was a masterclass in persuasive oratory, blending religious zeal with a call to moral duty and, controversially, the promise of spiritual rewards. He began by recounting the suffering of Christians in the East under Muslim rule, a description that historians now argue may have been exaggerated to stir his audience's emotions. Urban painted a vivid picture of holy sites being desecrated and Christian pilgrims being harassed or killed on their journeys to the Holy Land. He declared, "God wills it," a phrase that would become the battle cry of the Crusaders. His words inflamed the crowd, invoking not only a sense of duty but a righteous anger. He framed the expedition as a path to redemption, offering forgiveness of sins for those who took up arms, effectively guaranteeing their place in heaven. For many, this was a monumental promise. In an era where life was brutal and salvation uncertain, the Pope was offering a way to absolution, a straight ticket to heaven. For the peasants and knights, this was unprecedented. And Urban wasn't done yet. He implored the crowd to abandon their petty feuds and territorial squabbles, uniting instead against a common enemy. This was no longer just a religious mission. It was an opportunity for fame, fortune, and eternal glory. Historians today debate Urban's intentions. Did he truly believe he was acting on divine orders? Or was this an expertly crafted campaign to consolidate power and extend his influence over both Eastern and Western Christendom? Urban's speech not only altered Europe's course, but also defined the relationship between religion and warfare for centuries to come. Within days of the speech, news of the Pope's words spread across Europe like wildfire. Noblemen began to organize, rallying troops and resources for the First Crusade. Ordinary people, too, farmers, artisans, and women, left their lives behind, swept up in the fervor of reclaiming the Holy Land. But the First Crusade would be marked by not just battles against Muslims in the East, but shocking acts of violence and brutality, even against Jewish communities in Europe, as crusaders committed atrocities along their route. The People's Crusade, a tragic prelude. In the months following Pope Urban II's speech, word of the crusade spread far and wide, even reaching Europe's poorest communities. But what unfolded next was something that no one, perhaps not even Urban himself, could have anticipated. Thousands of peasants, common laborers, artisans, and even children, many who had no combat training or supplies, were so inspired by the Pope's message that they set off almost immediately on a journey they believed was divinely blessed. This massive grassroots movement, which would come to be known as the People's Crusade, saw tens of thousands marching eastward toward Jerusalem. Without the resources or leadership of the noble-led armies that would later form the official First Crusade, this army was poorly equipped for the hardships of the journey. Many were motivated purely by the promise of salvation and a deeply held conviction that they were fulfilling God's will, believing that the Lord Himself would provide for their needs along the way. But reality hit hard. These so-called crusaders soon ran out of supplies, and hunger led to rampant looting as they passed through Europe. When they finally reached Eastern Europe, they clashed with locals, who viewed them as dangerous invaders. The People's Crusade met its tragic end in Asia Minor, where Turkish forces quickly and ruthlessly slaughtered thousands of these defenseless crusaders. Only a small fraction of them survived to return home, empty-handed and defeated. This tragic and often overlooked chapter reveals the darker, unforeseen impact of Urban's speech, showing how powerful rhetoric can inspire even those with little hope and few resources to believe they have a higher calling. But it also raises questions. Was Urban's message so intoxicating that it caused ordinary people to cast aside their lives in blind faith? Or was this tragic outcome an unintended consequence, illustrating the power and danger of stirring religious zeal without clear guidance or support? The aftermath and legacy, a bloody chain reaction. The capture of Jerusalem in 1099 marked the first and perhaps the most notable success of the Crusades. However, the victory was not just a military conquest. It was a brutal, bloody event where thousands of Muslim and Jewish inhabitants were slaughtered. But the First Crusade was only the beginning. The call to crusade sparked a chain reaction of conflicts and campaigns that would continue for centuries. In the years following the First Crusade, there were 8 more official crusades and numerous smaller campaigns, each with its own challenges, leaders, and goals. Some sought to recapture lost territories, others to defend against Muslim counterattacks. The sheer scale of these campaigns transformed the landscape of both Europe and the Middle East, leaving behind a complex legacy of religious, political, and cultural clashes. Moreover, the Crusades had profound effects on Europe itself. They contributed to the end of feudalism as lords and knights sold land and property to fund their expeditions, unintentionally redistributing wealth and power. The crusading movement also led to the founding of military orders, like the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaller, which became powerful entities in their own right. Religiously, the crusading spirit reshaped Christianity, reinforcing the Church's power, but also tying it more closely to military pursuits. This alignment of religion and warfare would cast a long shadow over European society, influencing everything from the reconquest of Spain to the persecution of heretical sects within Europe itself. Perhaps the most significant and controversial aspect of Urban's legacy is the enduring animosity that these crusades fueled between Christians and Muslims. The Crusades left scars on both worlds, fostering cultural and religious divides that, in some ways, persist to this day. By igniting this series of conflicts, did Pope Urban II unknowingly set the stage for centuries of religious strife? Or was this chain reaction precisely what he intended, ensuring a legacy of Christian dominance? Pope Urban II's call to arms at Clermont in 1095 did far more than summon soldiers to reclaim the Holy Land. It set off a chain of events that would alter the landscape of Europe and the Middle East for generations. The Crusades became not only a religious endeavor, but a symbol of the intersection between faith, politics, and power. The question remains, did Urban truly believe in his mission, or did he use faith as a vehicle to achieve his ambitions? If you found this journey through history fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the pivotal moments that shaped our world. What's your take on Pope Urban II's call to arms? Let us know in the comments. Was he a genuine spiritual leader or a master strategist with an ulterior motive? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.